Hello everyone, welcome back to Zatino Talks. So as you can see, I'm in a whole new environment. I'm in Pacifica, if you guys know where that's at, and I'm at the beach. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna be in the Pacifica area. Why not be creative, give you all a different background, and have a Zatino talk here at the beach. So I'm super excited because it's a beautiful day out. It's a little chilly, but I'm here. And I'm just so excited to talk. And today's topic is around mental health. As some of you know, and as I've said previously, I'm a therapist. So I'm specifically licensed marriage and family therapist, and short for LMFT. So if you ever heard that acronym, LMFT, that's what that means. And in my studies, I got my master's in counseling psychology, and I am just trained to support families and individuals. But I come from the perspective of family and helping people become better, get healed. And one of the things that it's been really heavy on my heart, honestly, for some time, is this very sensitive topic, trigger warning, is around suicide. As a therapist, I have seen so much around suicide, from youth to adults, to older adults. Like suicide, just like trauma, it has no discrimination. It doesn't just target a certain type of people. Suicide is something that is very real, and it could fly under the radar, as you can see. A lot of our favorite celebrities, a lot of our people, actors and actresses that we look up to, owners of big fashion companies have committed suicide, and a lot of our loved ones maybe have committed suicide. And this is something that is rarely talked about, and it's such a, what we would call like a taboo topic. It's something that we know about, but you don't want to talk about it, just don't name it. And I think it's important that we just open that. We open it and talk about it. I'll talk about this from personal experience. I am someone who, in my younger years, especially in times of high school and early college, I struggled with suicide a lot. I struggled with thoughts of not wanting to live, not wanting to be here anymore, and just wanting to have an escape. And a lot of people who maybe have never struggled with thoughts of suicide will say, how can someone just take their life? Like, why is that the first thing they go to? It usually comes from a place where we've felt in our world, if we've exhausted all other options, we've tried everything we could to get better, nothing's getting better. I just want to get out of here. Like, I just want to escape the world. And usually that leads to a thought of just not being here, and that's suicide. And this was such a thing that tormented me for years. Whenever things would get highly stressful, whenever things, really would get highly emotional and I couldn't feel like I could handle it, my mind would always be like, well, I could just not be here anymore. And for me, it was the fear of death was the biggest thing that held me back from doing anything to myself. But there were other ways, and this is what's also really key to know, is that there are other ways in which I was doing self-harm behavior, just putting myself in risky situations where I could have probably lost my life, or just maybe driving recklessly. Like, there were other ways where I wasn't like cutting myself or doing that self-harm behavior, but I was engaging in risky behavior that could lead anyone to like potentially dying. And that was my way of doing self-harm. And so when you think about your loved ones, when you think about people in your circle, maybe they're not cutting, but there are other ways in which maybe people are exhibiting self-harm behaviors where you're just being reckless. Like, it's almost like you don't care about your life. You don't care if you live or die. You don't care if you drive 100 miles per hour, and who knows what happens. Who cares, right? And so it's important to look at those things, and we have to talk about this topic of suicide. We gotta understand what drives people to this last resort. We have to understand what are the ways that people think about doing this, and what leads them to that point, and what is going on internally in their minds and in their hearts. And I will tell you, this thought of suicide is something that it comes for a lot of people who are actually very successful. Like, it comes for the people who are like maybe obviously distraught, like they're going through a lot of things, but it also comes for like the geniuses of this world, the people that are very successful, the CEOs of companies, the people who you would consider your strong friends. Those are the people that we want to be mindful of and look out for. These are some of the things that we look out for as therapists. So we look for intent, a plan, and a means. So intent. Do you, first of all, have the intention to kill yourself? Like, is this an intention that crosses your mind? An intention goes hand in hand with thought. Like, is this a thought that you've had? Has this crossed your mind as a potential escape plan, right? Do you have a plan? Have the means? Like, do you have the access to these things? And if all of that is true, we're creating a safety plan. Like, okay, let's talk about this. Like, how can we get you to a place where this is not what you're deciding to do? At the core of the person, they don't want to die. They don't want to leave this earth. They don't want to leave their loved ones. They don't want to have that impact on their loved ones. But they're so distraught. They don't know what else to do, that it becomes the thing to do. But at the end of the day, if you dig enough, if you peel the layers enough, if you sit with someone and allow them to feel loved and cared for, they will tell you with tears in their eyes, this isn't what they really want to do. So I just wanted to talk about this because I think especially during the holiday season, it is a season where a lot of things can come up for people. I start talking about this, and may this video sort of inspire you to get curious about your loved ones. Maybe there is someone in your circle that is feeling rather depressed, is feeling super anxious, is struggling with their mental health, that maybe they're thinking about this. And I kind of want to give you intel on, like, how do you have this conversation with a loved one? You don't antagonize. You have to be very sensitive and delicate to the words that you use in the beginning, to try and create a safe space, that they would feel comfortable to say this to you, because a lot of shame and guilt is wrapped around suicide, which is what keeps a lot of people silent. Check in with a loved one and see if this is a potential thought of theirs. It's a scary topic to have, and it's kind of can feel yucky to talk about, right? Like, oh, I don't want to name it, because then what if I'm planting a seed in their mind? We could overthink ourselves out of having these raw conversations with people that we love, but it really comes from a place of creating a non-judgmental space, a safe space where, like, hey, I won't judge you, I won't shame you, I completely understand because of XYZ that you're going through, but is this something that you're thinking about? And if you don't want to share with me, like, how can I just be there for you, right? So checking on your strong friends isn't just a buzzword. Like, that is true. Like, check on your strong friends, check on your weak friends, check on your friends, right? Check on your loved ones. If you're thinking about someone, I've been thinking about that person, text them, call them, reach out. You never know why that intuition is coming in, and maybe there's something that you gotta say to them. Maybe there's an encouraging word that can really support them. So mental health is something that we all have. We all have mental health. Mental health is not specific only to the people that have been diagnosed. Every single person that has a mind, that has a brain, has a mental health. Now, the temperature of your mental health, the intensity of your mental health, that's different for everyone. And so let's just create a world where we're not making people feel weird for struggling with their mental health, where we're creating an open space to say, let's talk about these crazy things that can come up in our minds when we're the most stressed or the most depressed. We sometimes want to exit this world. That's real. That's real for so many people. And how many more people do we have to lose to understand that? And so, yes, it's yucky. Yes, it's weird. Yes, it could feel awkward. It could feel all those things, but it's important for us to have these conversations with our loved ones and check in on them. And in your own way, you'll find your way to talk about this. I'll admit, even as a therapist, I struggle with having this conversation sometimes, because it just feels so invasive sometimes, and it's like, how do I talk about it? I even am looking for ways to strengthen my ways of talking about it with my clients, because it is a very uncomfortable conversation to have. But imagine the discomfort that the person is holding all by themselves, ruminating about this. Some people are constantly fantasizing their suicide plan. That is real, that's legit. And so that's where empathy comes from. Let's come in and hold their hands alongside this discomfort, because they're already holding it and it's heavy. So yeah, it's going to be heavy, it's going to be uncomfortable for us, but that's where love comes in. And so I just feel like I'm rambling in a sense, but I feel like I wanted to just talk about this topic of mental health and just talk about how we want to be able to help people through their times that are the hardest. And hear it from me as a therapist. The season of Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's is one of the toughest times. data has shown that we lose a lot more people to suicide during this time. Here's my camera dies, and I have no idea where it cut off because I'm at the beach and I cannot plug it anywhere to check. So I want to make sure that I add a closing statement because it's really important. All that being said, my biggest thing today in making this video was suicide. I feel like I've been hearing about it way too much, not only just within the field, but with a lot of people within the media and just loved ones of loved ones that I'm hearing that are passing away by suicide. And so I've been feeling compelled to talk about this for some time. I just hope that watching this video gave you some food for thought, gave you some inspiration of reaching out to some loved one, maybe just like, how are you? Are you doing okay? Like, how can I be there for you? Because this season of the holidays is the hardest. And just have intentional conversations with your friends. Go deep. Don't be afraid to ask the questions of how are you? How's your mental health? Let's talk about mental health within our friendships. And just know that if you are struggling with your mental health, or you're challenged in some way, or you also have had some thoughts of suicide in the past, just know that there is another way out. I encourage you to speak up. I encourage you to name it, because that is the biggest thing. When we name it and we take it out of our mind, it loses its power a little bit. But when it's here, it's like it's the only option, and that's just all I'm gonna do. But something about processing that thought gives it less power, and so I invite you to do that. And I invite you to share this video with a friend, just to, you know, maybe this is a conversation starter of having communication around mental health and wanting to have more of an intentional check-in with your loved ones, friends, families, and maybe even coworkers. So I hope that this video was of inspiration, was of food for thought, and have an amazing holiday season. And thank you everyone for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And yeah, don't forget to share with a loved one, subscribe, and I